Greetings, family. Welcome to Spirit in the Material World, your audible Eat, Pray, Love, but remixed with Old Bay, shea butter, and glitter. I'm here with one of my absolute favorite people on the planet. Y'all are not ready because we're about to be cutting up. My BB, my travel wifey, Steve
Hey,
Rosa. They're an
hey,
artist, educator, dancer, and to be clear, the chair of the dance department at Saddleback College in California, a photographer. I know them as Stevie. So, welcome to the show, Steve.
thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited to just be here and share and just be with you. Selfishly eat up all your energy, be here with you.
We're we're in a beautiful energy exchange. Just so folks know, the listeners know, as Stevie, it's hard for me to call you Steve. Like I'm like, who's that? Um, but Steve, we met through an amazing, like, life transforming trip to Cuba with our incredible Afro-Cuban dance maestra, Katy Hernandez. Shout out to Katy, who is like a powerhouse, y'all. Like, just I don't even have the words to express the depth and level of knowledge and brilliance that she brings to sharing Afro-Cuban dance, culture, music. But we were on a magical trip together last year throughout Cuba for 2 weeks, where we were really fully immersed in Afro-Cuban dance and music and culture. And we were just like, from the moment we met, peas in a pod.
Just clicked. Everyone was like, there they go. I was like, they put us together in that first homestead or casita, and that was it. It was
It was
over. We just, yeah,
Oh my gosh.
definitely.
It was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. And, we really were able to just develop this friendship. It was just kind of an automatic kinship and friendship. And I just love so much of the conversations that we had there and the experiences that we shared. We both have obviously a shared love of dance, a shared love of travel, and, being queer people in the space, and applying that lens, and also just a general conscious lens of traveling to that space. In the trip, we were able to go we were in Havana, and then we went to why am I blanking on the beach? We were there for only a day.
Oh,
Varadero?
yeah. It's
And where do
windy.
we go? Where do we go next? I can picture it in
We
my mind's eye. And the
we
name
did
of
Cienfuegos.
Cienfuegos.
We had the overnight in what was that one city? That
That
was
was such a beautiful place.
yeah, but just that one overnight. But then we did
Hmm.
Cienfuegos for a bit, and then we did Guantanamo,
Guantanamo.
and then we stayed in. Oh, sorry, then we also did a 1 day trip to Trinidad,
Trinidad was dope.
and then we stayed in Santiago de Cuba to close out the trip.
Yes, and
Yeah,
Santiago is really, really incredible.
beautiful.
The culture there, it reminds me so much of New Orleans. It has that like Haitian influence. The buildings, the music. It is like very, very African energy. There, the carnival culture in Santiago de Cuba was incredible.
Hmm.
But we could go for hours talking about all the things that we did. But what I really wanted to talk to you about is, on that trip, the conversations that we were having about gender
Yeah,
in traveling.
yeah.
And, some of the experiences of being in a space that is holding a gender binary
Hmm.
culturally,
Hmm.
and what that was like for you. And we experienced it in things like dance partners, like there's the male lead or there's the female part, and
Correct.
those types of things. So I just wanted to talk to you because you've been all over the world, and it's really incredible. And traveling, as a non-binary person, as a brown person, a queer person, you know sharing what some of those experiences are, especially now in a time where um, these identities are under attack.
Yeah, I mean, I want to center that we all have such different experiences as folks, right? So my non-binary travel journey is very individual, comparative to other folks, just because of the way we carry ourselves, the way we dress. I have a beard, I have a bassy voice, so folks will clock me as male. And even though I'm brown, that still gives me a level of privilege when I'm going through security, when I'm trying to hail a taxi, when I'm putting my luggage in a place, right? When I'm trying to communicate with a stranger via gestures and grunts because there's a language barrier in a different country, folks are more receptive of me than my siblings that maybe present in a different way consciously, and then they have different barriers or boundaries. But we left off with, like, I wanted to put that out there first, but
Mhm.
since we were talking about Santiago de Cuba, like one of the most profound moments for me while traveling in my recent years, right? That trip was 2 years ago now for us, right?
Yeah.
And I just had this beautiful moment where I realized that we're in class, we're taking this Afro Haitian class. Well, we took a series of classes, but I'm in a skirt, right? Because this is what we do. We just wear skirts. And I've been dancing in skirts for years in a contemporary slash modern framework, me
Mm.
just doing my own choreography and going in and exploring a skirt, exploring the femininity of a skirt, the flow of a skirt, the beauty of a skirt, and really rooting myself with that piece of clothing, right? And being like, what does this mean for me? And then studying with Gati and doing Orisha movement and other movement and being like, the skirt is an extension of you. The
Mm.
skirt is not just a prop, it is not just an attribute, it is part of you moving, embodying, channeling. But for me, I had a personal, beautiful moment where I just remember, and I remember reflecting on it afterwards and then crying many times, even now. But like, we were in class together, and I was like, oh, this is the first time that I'm dancing with a skirt, and I'm not like, oh, this feels a little different, or I'm doing something taboo. It was the first time where it felt natural, it
Mm.
felt innate, it felt accepted. And that wasn't just myself internally, that was the teacher, the other folks that were there teaching and helping us, right? Like the assistants of the teacher. Obviously, y'all, because y'all are a bomb community. Gati, it was just so common for a male body or a male assigned at birth body to dance in a skirt, and I just was like kind of liberated in a way. And I know it might seem minute or small to some folks, but to be able to, as a mover, as an educator, as someone who's just really, I guess, critical of a lot of things when it comes to my body, and honestly, Alti have been unkind to my dancing body in
Mm.
my years on this earth in this timeline. That moment was one of those like shining moments where I was like, "Yeah, girl, like do the thing," and it was just it was such a beautiful experience to have that liberation, that acceptance, and to be able to walk around in that, very much in that small experience, right, of a set classroom on the theater stage with these folks. Could I saunter off into the street in a skirt? That's a different thing, right?
Right.
But
Right.
but
Right. Right.
yeah, but to have that experience as an individual was just so rooting and so like just opening, broadening, right? It wasn't just me being like, oh, this feels good. It really allowed me to root into different sides of me. I've been receiving from a lot of different healers around me that I've been tasked with healing a lot of ancestral trauma in the maternal framework,
Sure.
right? And it's just like, well, why was I the one supposed to receive that? Who knows? I'll find out later as I keep this journey of like dancing and healing and
Yes.
understanding my body. But I feel like this is part of that, right? And it's not just like skirts cure all. That's not what I'm trying to say. Right? It's not
Here's
like
the Amazon link,
I'm
right?
like, no, no, no. But then again, throw on a skirt, throw on some heels, and see what happens to you because you will
Okay.
change. Like, let's be real. You,
Regardless of gender, it's a true story.
yeah. Like, it doesn't matter how you identify or how you walk this earth. Put on some heels. They can be a little kitten heel. You know, they could be the little half-inch babies, or you
That's
can put on a 6-inch stiletto, right? A pleaser, whatever you want to do. It will change something about you. You will never walk on this earth the same. I'm telling you right now.
this is facts on facts.
Hmm.
Okay.
You'll be like I like to say, you'll be flouncing and bouncing all through the world. Just
I'm gonna have that in my mind now when I go out wearing skirt and heels. I'm like, let me go
mhm.
flounce and bounce, okay?
Flounce and bounce, mama. It's the only way to live. Let's be real.
I'm living. I love that. I love that.
But yeah, like, that was just one very small experience that has resonated with me as a person traveling and as a mover, as a dancer. I've been very blessed, like you mentioned, I have traveled a lot in my life and for different reasons and in different capacities. Recently, I also did my 300-hour yoga teacher training in Rishikesh, India at Yoga Vidya Mandiram, which is a school out there. My God, it was such a beautiful trip. I came back from that trip in November. I feel
Hmm.
like, it's now June. I feel like I'm
Right.
still integrating so much of it because it was 4 weeks, 6 days a week, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. of classes. And, they fed us the yogic diet. We had classes of anatomy, philosophy, meditation, we had chanting, we had asana, which is your physical practice, and so much more. And then also the exchange within folks who were on the campus at the school. It was just beautiful. But like eating the food, being in nature, it was being next to Ma Ganga, the Ganga River, which is
Mhm.
such a powerful, nurturing, cradling energy. Yeah, it was just such a profound experience as a human. And
Mm.
then and having that experience where it's like, yes, I'm aware of like my male presenting privilege, right? But really, this trip was about me as a person, as an individual, as a human, versus like, gender wasn't at the forefront of things. Is there a gender binary there? Of course. Is there a patriarchy there? Of course, right?
Everywhere.
Who's
Hmm.
checking us in? Who's driving the cars? Who's doing these things?
Right.
But it's also different. Like we had the men prepare all our food, right? Men were cooking for us. And so just that little shift was interesting, and that's just a cultural thing. Everyone takes care of the cows. There's cows everywhere, right? And that's beautiful, but
Yes.
everyone's throwing food on the street for them or taking care of them or tending to them. Cows be walking into bakeries, y'all. It is just yeah. It was one of the best experiences. I was just walking down the street, and this big, beautiful cow is just like walking slowly, just hoof by hoof, clopping, and just wants to smell the bread. And it's just like full on 40% of their body in the bakery. And then the owner's just like just doing little sounds and be like, get out, like go, right? I was like, I love this. I love this,
I
right?
love that
But
visual.
yeah.
And I'm not mad. That's me when I pass the bakery too.
I
So
mean,
that's
hey, we if
relatable
there's
content.
a concha being made, I will be in that bakery. That panaderia will see me. Let's be real.
Oh, I love that.
Uh, but yeah, Rishikesh was like a profound experience, right? Being in India, but and for me, one of the main things was like I was just able to exist and integrate
Mm.
and have these hugely deep energetic experiences, and also have my like my mind blown by just what I'm learning in terms of history and the sutras, and also right understanding my anatomy being that of the Western anatomy, right, or bones or nervous system, but
Right.
also the yogic anatomy and how they relate to one another, right?
Mm.
Where your chakras are, where you have your nadis, which are energy centers, how you have energy flow through. And, unfortunately, here in the West, there's so much appropriation and so much stealing of Indian culture and a lack of understanding of what yoga really is.
Mm.
And it becomes all about, terrible companies that I don't even want to name, and like yoga pants and, things like that, when it's like, nah, like, pants are yoga pants. Like a
Right.
shirt is a yoga shirt. It is just about how you show up for your practice. And
Mm.
it is not about doing these huge postures that Oh, you're standing on your head. That's the main thing you want to get to. There is no pose hierarchy. There is, they were like, I'm a thicker body. Like, your girl has, some thickness throughout her body. We love it. She has curves and swerves. And
Ashe. Yes.
and being in India, I'm not gonna lie, I did enter, right, with like, damn, all right, like there's gonna be a certain type of person who's gonna be there to do this training. And there was like a certain, when you think of like a yogic, someone going to India to study yoga, you already have a person in mind, right?
Hmm.
That very much did exist there.
For
But then
sure.
there was some melanated folks there, and but folks from all over the world came to this one school, and there were some thicker bodies, there were some bigger
Mm.
bodies, and I was already ready, kind of like it is in the dance world, unfortunately, to like be, a little big chested and be like, I deserve to be here. That was
Right.
not even a thing. Like when I entered these classes, my asana classes, especially our teacher Savage, you know, he didn't even address it in a beautiful way, right? It was just like
Yes.
yoga's for everyone.
Yes.
Everyone's at a different level in a different place. This is a 300-hour training, so this is what we expect of y'all. But do you listen to your
Mhm.
body and let's go? And that's what it was, right? Like sometimes folks took it really easy and gentle on their body, which we should do as humans anyway, every day.
Right.
And sometimes we're like, no, you know what? We want to build this heat. We want to push. Like, let's go. And it's beautiful. It's just beautiful to be seen as a human, as an individual, as a person, and to be seen energetically. Let's be real. Like often when we meet folks here in Western society in the US, I'm in SoCal, I'm in Long Beach, right? We don't really meet people. We just see them, and then because we've been potentially conditioned to do this, we just start projecting like what we think of them before we even get to know them. Like
Mhm.
we don't try to really understand their energy, where they're from. And sometimes we don't have that time. I get that. But I bring this up to say when I was in India, it was the opposite of that. I was seen as the person that I am. A lot of people really poured into me in beautiful ways. They were like, "You're so supportive. Your cackle, your laugh is so warming, right?" Like,
It is.
yeah, but it is. And just have like folks be to see a different side of myself that are strangers, and me be able to be authentic in that way. I had the privilege of teaching a couple dance classes out there at the school because the fellow students were interested. So I taught a West African class in one of our studios, and as Baba Yaya says here, to a recorded tape, because obviously didn't have live drummers, so I made it work. But it was
Woo.
beautiful to have these. I literally taught a class for folks and facilitated this experience for folks from all over the globe. Like, and it just happened because folks were interested and they wanted, it wasn't like me advertising and being like, I'm
No.
going to be at this conference. Like, it just naturally came about. And then I also taught a bachata class
Ooh.
on the roof of one of the buildings. And I'm like, look at this, y'all. Like, we're over here, doing our thing, bachata, moving these hips, partnering, right? And look
Yes.
at these mountains around us. Like, this is wild. Monkeys running around. Like, it was such a beautiful experience to be able to offer in that way.
Yes.
And I was able to because I felt so poured into. I felt so
Mm.
seen as an energetic person, as like a human, versus like, oh, you're a male body, you're a male, like this. So it
Expectation.
was a very unique travel experience for me in that way, for sure.
That is such a blessing. And I think that's the container was set in a place like that, and that is so important, like that context. A couple of episodes ago, I had on a dear friend of mine, Emily Williams, and her best friend, a black trans woman named Taylor Casey, disappeared in the Bahamas last year at a yoga retreat.
Wow.
And the yoga retreat, you're like, the juxtaposition of the two is so present to
Mm,
me, because the Western idea of what yoga has become, this like capitalistic, you know, very, again, it tends to be in a like white, Western, capitalistic, gendered type of framework that a lot of these yoga retreats come to. And the thing is, she was having issues, showing up as herself, being seen as herself as a Black trans woman, not as like, all these like the projection of the identities, right? And
Hmm.
what whiteness or what like cisgender uh projection of like who she should be or how she should show up. I wasn't there, but just hearing the, reflections from people who were there, via Emily, it was like the opposite experience. And when she disappeared and went missing, that's a whole other situation of, again, the way that like transphobia shows up, the way that anti-blackness and racism shows up, even in a country that is, you know, full of Black people, run by Black people. You still have that transphobia. And then plus you add in this, wellness yoga center, because she was doing a teacher training.
Hmm.
And the way that they just like closed ranks when people started to ask questions about where she was. And so I'm really grateful that you brought that point up about, going to have this experience, in India with these teachers, and like what yoga is actually about, and what the spirituality and the practice is really about. And being able to show up as yourself, to be seen as yourself. And again, acknowledging that like identities are different and people respond in different ways. Um, but also that container matters, like the context matters, and even I think when we, the container that was set when we went to Cuba with Kati, right? Like that container is set in a loving way and in a way of respect. And so much of that matters when we're, not just like running trips, but like when if we're hosting, like you're a teacher, you're a professor, what
Hmm.
that means, the difference of what that means to set that kind of context where your students can show up as themselves, and a place of safety. And that means like physical safety, but also emotional safety, to really like show up, as you truly are, um, from like a spiritual perspective, and also like that artist perspective. So it's just really interesting to hear that experience, um, you know, and the like real roots of how yoga is intended to be.
Yeah, 100%. Like I totally agree with you on, like, using your same framework or your same words here, but like the container is so important. And being where in my training, of course they do cater to like the European and the white women from the US that come over for the training because they gotta make money, right? They understand that these folks will come through and do the training and then do what they will. It doesn't seem like they're really changing how they're teaching to pander to that, right? They're like, this is what yoga is. Yoga is sitting with yourself. Yoga, we're doing all of this so that you can sit for a prolonged period of time and meditate and really be with yourself. That is why we're doing all our yoga asana, these physical practices. It is so that you can sit down, right? And that
Right.
in itself is so beautiful. Like we need to sit. We need to sit and root, right?
Yes.
Using sit as a metaphor, right? For some folks, sitting down maybe is not as accessible, but it's not just about the physical seated, the sukhasana, the easy seat. It's about rooting, it's about being with yourself, it's about understanding and processing that non-attachment, releasing so much of ourselves that we have been shifted in our societies that we've grown up in to carry ourselves in a different way.
Right.
It's like it's believed that you are meant to be a joyful person. You are born into this world with joy, with excessive amounts of joy. But then as we live our lives, that joy is shifted. It's not that it goes away, but it's shifted,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then so some of us then know maybe we don't have as steady access to our joy as others do that we
Hmm.
did when we came into this world. And so for me, my yoga practice has been very much about that. Like someone I've known since I was 18. Tina Kennedy, shout out. Love me some Tina. Tina's a lighting designer at Cerritos College. And she's known me since I was a dance baby, since I was a baby. I was 18. Like, who was she? Who was this person back then in a relationship and all of these things? Tina has seen me through everything. And we just had an informal concert a few months ago, like a month ago. And she was like, "There's something different about you." And I was like, "Oh, uh-oh, am I frantic or stressed?" She goes, "You have like this ease and calm about you." And I was like, "Ashe, thank you." Like,
Yes.
not to say that like I'm doing it for recognition, but it's
No.
nice when someone that has seen the various iterations of myself, right? Because we all have so many versions of ourselves, to be able to recognize the work that I'm doing,
Yes.
and we don't do the work for the accolades, but we do the work to really pour back into ourselves, to nurture ourselves, and to, let's be real, to heal, like to really understand what we carry with us, whether it's ancestral, whether it's something that happened in this lifetime, whether it's something that happened last week, and it can be a microaggression that you weren't really aware of, but
Mm.
all of a sudden you're just chilling on your couch and you're like, ooh, I feel a little unsettled, and taking the time to do that versus just being a part of this grand mechanism in this big machine of just eat, work, sleep, eat, work, sleep, eat, work. Girl, bye. Like, we do not, especially in our current political times, especially in our current global climate, we do not have that luxury. Like, we
Right.
have to tend to ourselves so that we can then reach out to our community and heal our community and facilitate, maybe if we need to, for our community, whether that's like having a little kiki at your house and checking in on your friends, right? Or like making some food and dropping it off at the homie's house. Like, all of these things really go a long way, but we don't have the capacity to do that unless we really pour it back into ourselves and do that work. And so
Yeah.
for me, yoga has been a vehicle in that, but also traveling overall. Like,
Yes.
traveling is, I will, like, when I met my partner, I was like, one of the first things I was like, we're celebrating our 1 year in 2 weeks. Woo woo.
Yay! Oh my gosh, time goes so fast.
Is it wild? Thank
Congratulations.
you. Our anniversary is Juneteenth, which is
Oh,
very cute.
yes.
Yes. He's
Come
so
through.
cute. He was like, "I love that for my Black love story." That's what my partner said. I was
Me
screaming.
too. The ancestors are so happy.
It was, yes, this relationship has been very beautiful, but that's another thing, big part of my healing journey for sure.
Ashe.
But I was telling my partner, I was like, hey, like, I travel, like, from the jump. That was one of the first things. I was like, I just travel. I travel a lot. I wander. I explore. He and I just did a road trip this past weekend, which was beautiful. Yeah,
Hey,
my first road trip with the partner, going to a couple of the national parks in Cali, and then going
fun.
to SF for 3 nights, and then taking the coastal route down to Big Sur, and then coming back to Long Beach. Yeah, it was a beautiful trip, and we just flowed the whole time. Like, we just allowed things to flow and be, and that really does nourish me in a lot of ways, right?
Mm,
Like, traveling
mm,
overall really nourishes me in a lot of ways.
yeah.
And every travel experience is just so different based on just where I'm at in life
Mm,
and who I'm with, or where, the framework. Like, I did the Cuba trip again this year,
right.
and it was
FOMO.
beautiful. I know. I was like, it was beautiful, but it was so different.
I'm sure.
Everything was so different. Like, I didn't have my hubby there with me. Jana wasn't there with me. So I was like, this feels, I was a little like, like throwing a little fit in the corner. I was like, where's my boo?
I know, like never again.
I know. But then also, like, recognizing how different, because we both love Santiago de Cuba our first
Right.
time, just that one city, how different it is now from last year.
Mm.
12 months. Like, 12 months, there's been drastic changes.
In what
The
ways?
the youth, for lack of a better word, the younger folks
Yes.
are gone. Like, do you remember
Wow.
when you and like we would be walking around and we would walk around that main street with all the shops and you would see all these little baby kids running around and like all the
Yes.
kids geeking and
Yes. Kicking it.
not anymore. It's just
Wow.
and so I was talking to our host and I was like, "Hey, I noticed like this street, like it was last year was popping. Like, folks were just chilling, listening to music, walking around, having
Hmm.
ice cream." And
Right.
she was like, "Ay, mijo," she's like, Everyone out, they're all gone. Like, they're all leaving the country."
Wow.
And so it was a beautiful moment to talk with her. And she was like, Look, we worked hard. This is me. This house is me. This is mine and my husband's. Like, we worked hard for this to be in our possession. Like, she didn't use those words, but like in
Right.
us. It was so much more than like owning a home. It was
Uh-huh.
a beautiful way that she phrased it in Spanish. It's kind of hard to translate it. But she was like, like this is mine and I'm never gonna leave. She's like, but the younger generation is they're leaving. They're just
Right.
so there's a big shift there. Like there's still a lot of beautiful things that Cuba has to offer,
Yeah.
but just because we were able to have that privilege of engaging with Cuba in such a different way through Kati and through everything that she facilitated, through the connections we made individually, and
Mhm.
to be there again and be like, oh wow, there's some big shifts,
Wow.
just from one year to the other, and it's something that is felt in the country overall.
Yeah. I could
Yeah, and
imagine.
yeah, it was kind of wild. It was kind of wild to experience that.
And it makes me think there were a few things that you shared that really just touched me. I think one quickly about when you were sharing that story about Santiago de Cuba and the idea of like having to leave your home to find opportunities or for survival and literally and thinking about migration, thinking about what that means in our current political climate, like choices to stay, choices to leave, and you know, um, we have clearly a different economic system than Cuba, but like there's a level of privilege that we have, but also how what's happening politically and socially, how that's impacting quality of life. What's going to happen to the economy, what's going to happen to you know uh, quote unquote marginalized communities,
Mhm.
and our ability to like move through space, and that's just a bigger thing I've been thinking about. I think a lot of us have been thinking about it. I've done a few podcast episodes with folks who have left the United States, particularly Black women,
Mm.
and also that idea to bring it back to the idea of stillness. And it seems like that it's like um, in contrast to travel, but it's actually, to your point, I feel like whenever I leave the country, I find and again, this is because I'm out of my house and my like daily routine of like I got stuff to do, I got work, I got, gotta wash these dishes, gotta whatever, right? But that travel really does connect me to an ability to be still in a different way and to be observant in a different way than like when we're in the capitalist like cycle, like you said, eat, work, sleep, or
Mhm.
like hopefully we're eating. Sometimes it's like working and I'm like, oh, didn't eat for 6 hours or whatever, maybe I should go do something.
Yeah.
um you know and the blessing I think of travel is, one, you do have that break from your like daily routine, but also to be able to see in different cultural contexts like flows of life. And so I joke around, but this is like actually very true, that living in Costa Rica prepared me to live in New Orleans.
Mm.
Because as a New Yorker, I'm type A. I think just naturally I'm type A, and then you add the New York rhythm of life to that. It's like, no, this is supposed to be, not to say that New Yorkers are always on time, like there's still CP time, but it's like, yo, people got stuff to do. We ain't got no time to wait. Like it's going
Mhm.
with the flow is like not a thing. Like ain't nobody got time for that, right?
Yeah.
So, even moving to the South is and a place like New Orleans, which is the northernmost city in the Caribbean, as they say, and it is true. I don't care what anybody says. That has been teaching me to slow down, but I'm still in an American or a US context. And so sometimes that's really stressful, right? Or like
Yeah.
they bump up against each other. But what I'm getting at is that when you're able to go to other places, you see how people value time, right? And value like going with the flow. A lot of times it's infrastructural, is like I'm gonna get there when I get there. You know what I mean? The lights went out. There's fog, like
Yeah.
whatever. There's all these different things, but also culturally, um, the way that like capitalism plays into morphing these things like you were talking about yoga, how capitalism like totally distorts that, how capitalism distorts so many different things, and yes, we need to make money, like, of course, and I'm grateful for the work that I do. I love it, but travel and solo travel, and also even in group travel, really does challenge, especially internationally. A lot of times it really, like, there'll be an enforced slowdown, or it can facilitate this like ability to be still because you want to immerse yourself and just like be in the moment. So it was just so interesting to think about that, because I'm definitely someone that, in general, day to day life, works on sitting my behind down. So,
Yeah.
like, sit your behind down, girl. Like, you're doing the most. It is not my natural inclination to be still.
I mean, who you telling? Like literally yesterday, my partner was like, "Just chill," because like he was making food, and he was like, "Just chill," and I was like, he's like, "Enjoy the fruits of your labor," and I was like, "What?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "This home, like,
Shit.
yes, like you've done so much, like just chill." Like, I mean, how blessed am I? My man's over here making me this bomb ass sandwich in the kitchen. I know it's a sandwich, but let me tell you, I don't know what he be doing to this bread and everything, but seasonings on seasonings, I am here for it, right? I was
Girl,
like,
I
it ain't
support
just
that.
deli meats and cheese, y'all. Like there is.
A little magic ashe on it. I'm into
Yeah, my
it.
man be it's ancestral, just seasoning right there, just channeling while he's cooking. I'm here for
The
it.
pheromones, you know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Through all the herbs and spices. But
Right.
the very that, like, I'm with you. Like I find it difficult. I used to find it difficult to say no when it came to work, right? Because I love what I do. I am blessed. Let's be real. Like I am an educator, I'm a dancer, I'm a dance teacher. I'm a professor of dance. I now get paid to profess dance. That is wild to me. Like I never thought, little young queer gay me never thought that I would be dancing. Like I've always loved to dance. Like I have all these beautiful memories of me as a little dancer, but I never thought that this would be my livelihood. Like I travel for dance. I have this beautiful opportunity to meet people every semester or in every offering or workshop and just share and be in
Right.
community and energetically dance with folks and allow them to show up in the best way that they can or in the way that they want to show up that day and
Right.
embrace that for them. Give them that space, right?
Right.
And I've been able to do that now and understand that a little more through my yogic training, but also through all the traveling I've done,
Mm.
through having these moments similar to like what you share. Like I remember when I was in Lebanon in 2015, I went right after I graduated grad school with my then mentor. And so I had such a different experience because we stayed at her mom's house,
Mm.
right? And so I was like staying with family the whole time. But you're talking about like going with the flow. Like we would go visit this person, you would sit down, chat, get to know one another. The tea's coming out, the food's coming out, and then cool. We're there. We're supposed to be a 20-minute little pull up. It's gonna be now 3 hours that we're there, and
Right.
then we're going to see this next person. There we go. More tea, more food, and I'm like, oh, where do I put it? Like I am so stuffed, but just like just to have that, where like you're just visiting folks, and it becomes a whole thing, right?
Yeah.
A whole experience because folks just want to get to know you, or you're just enjoying your time with these people, right? Regardless of all the vibrations and the clutter around of everything happening in political climates and in societal, whatever is happening in each country or culture in their society, you're able to take a moment and be still. Or like you
Hmm.
said earlier, to sit,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
even though traveling, we're shifting, we're leaving our routine, but I am not a heavy itinerary traveler. Like I do
Mm.
not. I plan stuff. If I hit
Right.
it, awesome. If I don't hit it, cool, we're good. So like in my experience, traveling has very much been that as well, right? Like Lebanon, or after I went to India, I had the beautiful privilege of going to Cambodia and go with my bestie. My bestie is first generation, born in Long Beach. Parents fled Cambodia because of the Khmer Rouge
Mm.
and the genocide at the time. And to be able to explore his motherland with him, Oh, I love this man. The bestie's been he's like one of my folks, right? Like we've known each other for 12 years and talk about like different iterations of one another. Like through our friendship, we've really grown, shifted, peeled away and rooted into so many different versions of ourselves.
Mm,
And Cambodia with him was just stunning. I tell him, I was like, I saw a different light of you that
yeah.
I've never experienced. Like to hear you speak your language with people, for you to hear your language all around you and it not be mixed in with, English or Spanish or other languages, but and for you to be in the actual earth that your ancestors came from. Like that allowed me to be still and sit in a different way. And also recognizing that I am a guest in this space. My Salvadorian ancestry is different than that of Cambodia, right? So it was a heavy, I'm getting chills now. It was a heavy emotional experience because I've known about the Khmer Rouge. Of course, they didn't teach it to us here in school,
Right.
right? In public school.
No, not at
But I
all.
did once I got to know my bestie and I was like, okay, um, a Cambodian household is different. It is a very unique household, and a lot of that is because of this recent history of this genocide. One major thing is that the elders don't talk about it. They
Wow.
simply and I've heard it through many, many other families as well, not just my bestie's family, and it is known. You do not ask about it. You do
Mm,
not. You do not. If the elders decide to talk about it, it's on their terms and when they want to. But there
right.
is some severe hurt, harm, trauma that a lot of that generation is carrying with them. So me being in this land, I'm very much a guest. Like I'm learning by going to like what they call the killing fields, which is essentially like a camp where folks are imprisoned and so many terrible things are happening, but also walking down the street and seeing an elder like Ye or Ma, my bestie's mom's age, and I'm like, you lived through this. Like you lived through all of this harm, this genocide. I think it's a quarter or 30%, 35% of the population wiped out in a matter of a couple years. And you lived through this, and now you just chilling right here, going to the grocery store or going to get some fruit from the stall down the way, and it really shifted a lot of things in my mind, like how as a traveler I am in these lands, in these spaces, going
Mm.
to Angkor Wat, which is wild, like to see this in person, to see these temples in person. Of course, little gamey, I'm like, ooh, Tomb Raider, Laura Croft, like.
Good. Finished. That's fair.
I would go on Angelina Jolie right now. Look at me running around, but I'm not gonna run because I don't want to disrespect the grounds. But like,
In my mind, that's what I'm doing.
very much right. But just having because I have this privilege of having my bestie, right, and having this different just this different way that I can show up in this land, but
Hmm.
being very much aware, like, okay, girl, you're a guest here. Like, you are very privileged to be on walking this earth and walking through these, ancient temples like Angkor Wat and all of that, but also the temples where you're going to give offerings for Da, his dad, who passed 2 years
Mm.
ago on the second. So 2 years ago and 3 days,
Mm.
right? Like I wanted to honor him too because this man fought in that war. So this man, like, he would always walk around the house like elders do sometimes without a shirt and with
Yep.
like little booty shorts on or whatever, right? Or in his wheelchair. But he had like bullet scars and knife
Wow.
scars, and he had protection tattoos on his hands. And that will talk to you forever, right? In broken English or in Khmer. And I was here for it. I was always just perched up and I was like, that, like this and that. And he shared so much. He was so generous when he was with us on this earth
Mm.
that I was like being on that land. I was like, I can't even imagine what it was for him, right? To be on that land. And all of this to say that all of that invited stillness in me when I was
Mm.
in Cambodia. Invited like for me to sit and be with myself in a different way. So I
Right.
wasn't like physically seated for 10 days, right? But I was so seated in myself as I'm like trying this new food with the bestie, going to a gay club, going to get massages that are dirt cheap and amazing,
Yep.
right? Like doing all the touristy things and also like the smaller things and just talking to the tuk tuk driver or talking to folks at the hotel. The besties like me were social butterflies, but in different ways. So, it was just beautiful to be able to be still and sit in a different way
Yeah.
than when I was in Lebanon, when it was like, oh no, you're going to sit on this couch and just enjoy the kiki that we're having, right? Like,
Right.
which we love. But also, like, being in Cambodia invited a different kind of stillness because of the history, my personal relationship to my bestie and his family. That's my second family. Like, his mom is my mom.
Mm,
And just to be able to sit in a way where you honor and you make space and you understand your position in this land, or as you're traveling through, recognizing my privilege because I come from the US and I have a salaried position. I'm a tenured professor. Like, did I put the work in to be a chair and to be a tenured professor? Absolutely. But
yes.
I'm also recognizing that that puts me in a different place of financial privilege than, folks next to me. So, yeah, just like really being able to be still with myself in a different way. And this is why traveling is so important to me. Like,
Yeah.
you're able to really understand, you have the ability to really understand yourself in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
when
that opportunity too of how we get to know ourselves when we are put in these different contexts, especially like that's why I love history and learning history. There's so many things about what you shared about understanding again the context of like where we're going and what is the history, what is so there's so many places around the world where like intense war, genocide, like these really really heavy violent situations happened very like within our lifetime or close to it, like extremely recently.
hmm
Let's say the last 60 years. Like I went to Vietnam, and for me it was like I watched the Ken Burns documentary about the Vietnam War before I went. And that gave me so much of a different context of when I was there, like how I was like observing things or relating to things as someone from the United States going there, and where the aftermath of that war and that history is still present, and even in the fact of like what you're saying about the elders don't talk about what happened. And it makes me think about like the trauma of that. And I was having a conversation with a dear friend of mine who is born and raised New Orleanian, native New Orleanian. And we were talking about, I was interviewing her for an article about how to experience New Orleans as a local. And one of the things she was sharing with me is that she said, like, don't just ask people their Katrina story. And so it was when you said that, it really made me think about like, oh, would people ask, like elders about like this? But I could see that, happening. And so, I think, and shout out to Aloye Otun, Ianifa Ifa Tumininu. That's my dear sister, chief, and friend who is a native New Orleanian that continues to be a guiding light and helping me understand New Orleans and help me understand a lot of things. But it's that same thing where it's like sometimes our role is just to sit, or like, and again, we're using that in a term of not necessarily physically, but like to observe, to listen, to be, still to develop ourselves and like develop those kind of like observational, intuitive skills and like emotional intelligence, and also to just really learn about things. And I think, bringing it back to the days that we're in the United States, like so much of what we're experiencing and why some of these things are being allowed to happen and there's less resistance is because we don't know the history around the world. We don't know global history. We don't know our part in global history. And we don't also know what happened, these genocides, these wars, these violent insurrections, coups, all this stuff. We don't know that as a general populace, and I think about, your background being Salvadorian, right? Like these having these lenses of not just the violence that happened, but also the like what's on the other side. Like you were talking about his mom and how it's like she lived through this where 35 like a massive percentage of the population, did not survive, was killed, was massacred, and it's like now she's living her life like, and going to the store, and like she's living her life as just
Yeah.
uh day to day. And I
Yeah.
think about that so much, trying not to be in a fear place about like where we're headed as a nation, um but as this reminder of like resilience of the human spirit, but also like
Mm.
what can happen when violent evil forces are allowed to thrive. So I
Yeah.
know that took a turn, but that to me is like again one of the things about travel that I feel like is so important, especially as someone from the United States, when we are going to places. And what a blessing for you to be able to like have that experience with someone who is from there, like whose family has that history that you learned even when you were a younger person here in the US.
Yeah, resilience of the human spirit is a beautiful way to like frame it. Like that's definitely something that's gonna sit with me. Like look, thinking about Ye, like his mom and her leaving the country at the beginning of everything, and the little bits that I know that she shared, but also my own mom, right, leaving the Salvadorian Civil War, and her leaving, and which is this is a whole other. My mama's journey is wild, y'all. Like my mom's journey is intense, but her leaving El Salvador and coming through and taking buses and being like, it's wild. Like the details of her story are intense and vast. So I'll like go through that, but like. And then she comes to this country and she's so defeated as she's about to cross the line, quote unquote.
Hmm.
Her shoes, her chanclas have ripped off. Like she's just over it. She is exhausted. And then there's a border patrol vehicle there at night, and my mom was just like, "Take me back." So she just walks in front, and then they didn't stop her. So like my mom was like, she was so frustrated and over it that she was like, "Take me back." And so she walks in front of this vehicle, and they don't swoop her up. And so she comes into this country, right? And then like for her to persevere through all of that, and then she's a month pregnant and she don't know. So my mama's then in this country, gonna meet up with the cousin. That's a whole other thing. The tea there is wild. But my mom ends up being houseless with a baby bump in the streets of LA and also Pasadena, trying to find work, eating out of trash cans with my oldest sister. Like, and now my mom is retired. She has her home, right? I take care of her. I have the beautiful opportunity to like, provide for her for like the home and stuff.
Shame.
And but I'm like, you're talking about that, that human spirit, and you're talking about it being resilient. Like my mother's another manifestation of that, just in her, right, and her fleeting and her need to travel, right? Like
Mm,
we've been framing travel in this beautiful place of like luxury because we want to go and experience these things, but also not minimizing the fact that people are forced out of their lands,
right.
forced out of where they really want to be, where they have set roots, right? Like my mom and Ye and other people and other lands. And so this forced removal, but because we're so resilient as communities, right? BIPOC communities, indigenous communities, folks will survive and will thrive, right? But it's about how do we do that? By sitting. Like we really
Yeah.
have to sit with each other. We have to
Hmm.
sit. So many things, but sitting definitely helps. Like sitting with each other in so many ways and really being able to check in on one another, see one another, and also kiki, y'all. Like laughing is so important. Like sharing
Totally.
food, sharing drinks,
Yes.
sharing in so many things, sharing in your love of animals, if that's a thing, of plants, whatever it may be, right? Finding your community so that you can further thrive while you're traveling, whether that's an elected travel because you want to experience Cuba and Cambodia and India like myself,
Hmm.
or whether that's forced travel and displacement like Ye leaving Cambodia or my mom leaving El Salvador. Like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my mom, point blank period, right? Like my mom's journey allowed her to then be here in SoCal, start her own lonchera business, lunch truck business before the gourmet food truck thing was a thing, and really get this off the ground. And she raised all six of us essentially by herself. I'm the youngest of six. So like this woman is everything, right? Her story is wild, and then her journey and her story here when she came to this country and this land is profound as well. So
Mm,
yeah, it's just it. But I've noticed just upon reflection as I get older, like my mom was able to do a lot and she was working a lot, but she never lost sight of who she was. You know, like
mm,
she knows my mom is always going to be a kid at heart. She just saw Lilo and Stitch and she was like, I loved it. But my mom is also like, I love kid things because I wasn't allowed to have a childhood.
mm.
She's the oldest of 13, so she had to take care of her siblings when she was a baby. You know,
Wow.
like but that's how it is in El Salvador with these big families. Like,
Right.
and that was just her truth. And so now that she has the ability to sit and be still and really let her hair down, so to speak, she got both knees replaced in the recent years. So mama got a tune up, as I say, right? I was like, she got that new transmission. So like, we be grocery shopping and doing all the things, but like it's
So
just beautiful
sweet.
to see her be able to be with herself in a different way, right?
Totally.
Like, and it's
Yes.
and it's just we look at our elders and we really have to like look at them and be like, hey, like, and not be like, tell me all the things, tell me all these stories, but let them naturally come through in these moments of stillness, in
Yes.
these moments of sitting with them and just enjoying and partaking and exchanging energetically. Energetic exchange is so important and so
Yes.
profound, and it doesn't
I
have to
love
be
how you
verbal.
put that.
Yeah.
I love how you put that. That and I think that goes. It makes me think about your point. About Lebanon and that's slowness of like part of the going with the flow is and what you were talking about really at the beginning where the Western context, especially California, it's very present because of like the industries that are there,
Hmm.
that the like uh seeing through people, right? Or like, what can you do for me? Or like making these assessments of people and who they are based on like seeing them. And what I think is really interesting is that part about when we are in these different contexts and different spaces of like, oh, like this 20-minute tea, it's gonna be 3 minutes. I mean, 3 hours,
Hmm.
and but that's like to your point, how we get to know each other, how we get to hear stories, how we get to connect, that like folks, it's a value in other cultures and other spaces of like, I want to know more about you. Like, I want to have this conversation. I want to, sit and kick it. Not just because we're lazy, you know what I mean? And we like whatever, but it's about like actual human connection. It's about, growth in so many different ways. And I just really love that, especially when we think about the context of our elders and their stories. And, that goes back to me of thinking about how that's also part of how histories are lost when we don't have these. We're not talking to our elders. We're not, letting them share with us. We're not listening to their stories because I always say, like, the ancestors have left us answers, and like the ancestors have left us so many tools. And so before our elders become ancestors, like what are those tools and what are those lessons, what are those gems that they have to share with us, and for us to really um take advantage of those opportunities before they're gone. So I know we went all over the place, and I'm so grateful because I'm gonna keep the tea, like I'm gonna spill the tea, because really I was like, I really want to talk about like identity when we travel, and but that's what the blessing of this is. One, if I get on any kind of communication mode with Stevie, it's gonna be going in. Like, it's just what it is. It's just what it is. I was thinking about like because of your experiences and your identities, like thinking about how people are having, so many, there's fear around travel. And like, that's fine. We can talk about that another time. I will have you back.
Yeah.
Um, because it's like, that's kind of, if we're going to talk about being in the spirit of going with the flow, right? And
That part.
intuition, It's like you were talking about. I have an itinerary, but if I get to it, cool. If I don't, it's fine too.
Yeah, we gonna have a good old time either way. And we sure
Either way.
did.
Truly, truly. It was so beautiful to have this conversation with you. And I do want to, continue this conversation, one from the spiritual level, and also two on a practical level for, folks who are allies. I really do want to lift up like what are, ways that it fellow travelers, if you're traveling with your queer, trans, non-binary community, your siblings, how to be good allies. So if
Hmm.
you have a thought about that, we can end on that. And if not, you can think about it and come back another time and share it with me.
Oh, I think that's a whole other episode right there.
It is,
I'm like, wait a minute.
right?
I
That'll be
mean,
another hour.
right, but well, I mean, aside from like, just like seeing the folks you're traveling with, right? Like actually like seeing them and checking in on them, right? Also, like as a person of size, like I can't just sit everywhere. Like she got thick hips, so armrests are uncomfortable,
Yada,
or
yada, yada.
Thank you. And I'm like, I don't trust that chair. So I'm not going to sit on it because I'm not trying to be horizontal on the ground in 2 seconds.
Jacked
So,
up. Mm-mm.
just that way of like checking in on folks and, being like, oh, how are you feeling? Right. Things like that. But that, it's also just like a very human approach to folks when you travel, right? Just being like, hey, how are you? Like, are you cool? Do you need some time? Do you need space? Do you want to go eat this? And not making it just about you or the group dynamic, but making it about the actual people who are there with you versus like, ooh, girls trip or friends trip or Galentine's. Like this is something for like every kind of like group situation. Like be really considerate of the folks who are there with you, the actual individuals versus you know just it being a group per se.
Right. I
Yeah.
love I think that's great. And I think that's, I want to continue that conversation, especially for any folks that are listening that are like organizing events and organizing trips. That's kind of
Yes.
like very nuts and bolts, very grounded types of tips, which I think are important. But I think also, the woo woo in me, and you, we're like gonna go on the like not the 30,000 foot, like the 100,000
Yeah.
foot level of these conversations about travel and spirituality. And so, yeah, I would love to know, just let the listeners know if there's any ways that you would like to, people to follow you or connect with your work. You know, please let folks know what feels good to you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, folks can always like I'm on Instagram, right? I don't do the tiki talkie. I'm too old for that. Everyone
I
around me
love
does.
TikTok.
Do you see?
Yeah.
I ain't got time. But my IG is just SROSA 24. That's Rosa 24. But also like shoot me an email, right? Like whether that's to my school email or any other way of contact. We'll put the contact info up. Yeah, I'm always happy to connect folks, to collaborate with folks, to exchange with folks, whether that's a conversation or some cafecito y pan, to flounce and bounce through a city with somebody. Hey,
Come
like,
on.
let's just do it. So,
The
yeah, I
best.
welcome all forms of communication for sure.
I love that. You are such a blessing. I'm so grateful that travel and dance, and that is another conversation that we could go into about, you
For
know,
sure.
the ancestral love and healing power of dance. We will have that as a part three.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm here for it.
I definitely believe that like ancestors brought us together,
Ashe.
and big up Kathy Hernandez. Y'all should be following her and doing her online dance classes and in person. I'm gonna hopefully get Kathy, on the podcast as well, for
Yes.
a whole other level of kiki and comedy. I might have to
Yes.
bring you back for that.
Yeah.
Um, but then we won't get nothing done, and we're just gonna be sitting here laughing for like 30
And that is
minutes.
what? A blessing. So,
Ashe, ashe, ashe. But I'm
yeah.
so grateful to you. You are a true gem and a true light, and I'm grateful just to be in community with you. and for all the laughter and the presence that you bring to all the spaces. So just super big ups, and thank you to the listeners of Spirit in the Material World. I hope you found some delicious soul food and food for thought to take with you, and I pray that you're all well and taking good care of yourselves. Peace.
Bye, y'all. Thank you.